You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, October 5th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
It is a great day to talk about money, and that's what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, so that you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions, or more importantly, to connect you with the guests that we have on the show. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, we have Valerie Hockett of Excuseless Life Coaching, and we're talking about unlocking women's intuition. And Valerie, thank you so much for coming into studio for the first time.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
Very excited. And a little bit about Valerie. Valerie is a certified health coach and currently working on her life coaching certification through the Health Coach Institute. She has been in business for a short time, but coaching has become second nature to her for the last 5 years. Valerie has a passion for helping women live out their day-to-day lives, confidently trusting their intuition and experiencing a fulfilling life. Valerie is happily married to her husband, Brian, and they are looking forward to starting a new family soon. Congratulations, hopefully really soon.
Oh, yeah.
And during her time off, Valerie enjoys walks with her dog, Bristol, yoga, kayaking, hiking, paddle boarding, camping, eating out with her friends, decorating, and organizing. Every week, you'll find her training in... What is that training? I'll let you finish.
Jitsu and Muay Thai.
There you go. And from the Kalahi Academy, Valerie loves her life and expresses that every day. You can tell that she has a life of a successful coach.
Right? I like her style. Having fun, and she can kick your butt. So.
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
Jiu-Jitsu is a crazy thing. Well, Valerie, tell us, and we're all interested in this awesomeness that you got going on right now. Tell us about your story.
Well, so I was actually born and raised in Florida up till I was 23 years old. And I was an aspiring actress and model when I was probably from 4th grade to my younger 20s.
Wow.
And so I grew up with a happy, hunky-dory family, older brother, kind of the all-American family at the time. And my parents have been together even till this day. So everything was, pretty average. We go to church on our Sundays, and we just had a good time. And, everybody has their ups and downs with families, of course. So as I got older into my younger 20s, I ended up finding myself very stressed out with the acting and modeling career, and just ended up saying, I don't think I'm really good enough for this, or I'm capable, so I'm just going to drop it. And that was actually a habit that I had throughout my younger years, was something's really stressful or very hard, so I'm just going to give up because that's a lot easier. And then I ended up going towards missionary training because I wanted to travel and I wanted to help out. And I ended up going to a school for a year to study on, scripture. And I came back, and one of the things with my family is we're very adamant in spirituality. So my parents, and I highly respect my father and his views and trust them. So he ended up, when I came back, saying, we changed our beliefs. I was like, okay. So we kind of went back and forth. And finally, I ended up not becoming a missionary because I no longer agreed with that way of life.
Yeah.
So that was very stressful. It was very manipulative and controlling to change me over that way. My mother ended up making me feel convicted to the point of covering my hair and wearing clothes that were at least covering up my entire arms, always wearing skirt, loose clothing, no makeup at all. I felt completely uncomfortable at the time because it was not how I was raised.
Yeah. So how's that transitioning now, Valerie, into what you're doing today?
So it was so impactful because, I was at the time, I wasn't doing something that I felt comfortable doing, and I was stuck in somebody else's world. And I kept going around and like stayed in this like cycle. And I felt very hopeless for my future. I wanted to get married, but I felt like, no, I need my parents. They know everything, and I can't live without their knowledge. And so finally, I was able to step away from that when I became a nanny in Idaho. So there's a big story in between that. But I was finally able to step away from my parents. And I had a really awesome friend during that time to talk to. And she just allowed me to be myself because I had no one to talk to. I had no friends. We shunned away the family. And so she accepted me for all of who I was and allowed for me to open up. And I was like, you're not, running away. And, I'm not getting struck by lightning because of these thoughts that I have that are, kind of like not in agreement with certain things that I thought I had to be. So that was so impactful to me to the point where I started to understand how life was functioning. And then I was like, okay, a change needs to happen here.
Yeah.
And accepting myself and allowing myself to stumble and make mistakes in life.
Definitely important part of the process.
Sounds like your tragedy to triumph, Tina. Every time there's a tragedy, there's a triumph.
Every time there's a tragedy, there's a triumph, as long as you know how to reach and fight for that triumph.
It kind of knocked you off your balance, and then you came back as a brand new person. So what's your goal now and purpose for starting Excuseless Life Coaching?
Well, and that's one of the things that I noticed so much growing up is when I would talk with people about health or anything in particular, there was always an excuse why they couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, you guys are irritating me. Excuses. I'm like, why don't we just go with Excuseless Life Coaching? And so that experience of complete transformation. I mean, I look back at my life and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, that's nowhere near where I'm at today. I completely went entire 360.
Well, and that's what's great about your life experiences, because it brings you to where you're at and what you're supposed to and what you're meant to be sharing, because you wouldn't be sharing Excuses Life Coaching if you had not gone through all of that time where you were making all of those excuses for yourself. Correct?
Yes.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So let's talk about intuition, because I know intuition means a lot to you and what you're teaching through your coaching, Valerie. So let's talk about that.
So intuition is basically, you can call it various things. Gut wisdom. Some people say it's either spirit is guiding them, source. Sometimes, depending on your belief, you could be saying, Jesus or Holy Spirit. So I'm very open to all the different beliefs and respecting of that. But intuition is definitely something that you feel. And I've noticed that that's definitely been put down a lot. Feelings, don't trust those. They're wrong. From where I've been, that's what I've always heard. Yeah. And so as I began to try actually practicing the trusting of my feelings, that's when I experienced change. And that's where every time I took a step forward into something, I was like, wow. Like, if a lot of times people say, oh, I remember this one time where I trusted my intuition and I didn't drive down that road and there was a car wreck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Intuition right there.
Well, and I believe that with intuition, your gut, your whatever that is, it never steers you wrong. It's whether you know how to recognize it, which is in your first seconds, or if it steers you in a direction you didn't want to go. But it's still always right. It's just you have to follow it and you have to know how to read it correctly. Otherwise, you miss that intuition or your gut.
Oh my gosh. And a lot of times, and I do try to point out, sometimes intuition is going to lead you to something that you didn't really like to do.
Exactly.
And you're like, why did that happen? I was trusting it. I thought something great was going to happen. Something great did happen.
It's a stepping stone to that greatness. Yeah.
Valerie, let me ask you, how do you know if it's your intuition? Because that's a really hard thing. It sounds like you've had to distinguish between what you thought you knew and what is actually yours. How do you differentiate between the two?
So some of the things I even do for myself is if I have these conflicting thoughts, I'm feeling this and I'm thinking this. Eckhart Tolle was even making mention. If you're having a struggle, then, basically separate what you're feeling and thinking and go with what it is that you're feeling. Sometimes you can do that by writing down, like, what is it that I'm thinking? Who are you? And I like to suggest, who are you thinking about when you have this thought? Sometimes we're thinking about Mom.
Yeah.
What would she say in this situation? What would Grandpa say in this? What would my teacher say? What would, my siblings say? Usually it's family, but it could be anybody for sure. And it's just about identifying, asking those questions. I always encourage to write it down. and identify it in that way, and then identify what is it that I want, what is being said, and what is it that I want. And that takes practice, too, at being able to accept the things that you want.
Yes.
And actually trust that, if you go after it, you will have it and it's going to be okay.
It does take practice to be able to let your intuition, I call it my navigation system, to lead you, and it's a process. So what about the fact that women more likely you'll hear that women have more intuition, or they feel their intuition stronger than a man does? What would you say with that?
So women do have a connection with their emotional side, which is why they're able to connect so much better. Does not mean, however, that men are not able to connect to their.
They just have to work harder.
Yeah, probably. And some of them not so much. Everybody is so different.
Yes.
And I just like to just really separate people from this, mainstream idea that it's only women. We should also very much be encouraging men to trust theirs as well. And that's the benefit of men and women and our differences, is women have a way of being able to pull that out. If you know how to, wield that sword.
Yes, yeah.
You can definitely be, what we're all meant to be, which is equal and partners with one another to helping in that way.
I like that, Valerie. I agree with that as a man myself. Sometimes it's tough to differentiate between the two. What does a session look like for you as far as your coaching sessions are concerned?
A session right now, I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more in the works, but for the moment, it's I like to do over the phone for about 60 minutes and at least do 4 consecutive sessions. That way we can get to know each other.
Yeah.
And then define from there if we're going to continue either weekly, maybe bi-weekly, or once a month, just seeing where it is and what all is that they're needing. Some people are just so new to trusting their intuition, they want to do it. And some of them just need a little bit of pick-me-up here and there. And so I want to be able to make myself available to all ranges.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great information that you're sharing. So if a listener wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that, Valerie?
Currently at the moment, it's going to be my email. I'm working on my website at the moment. So it's going to be excuselesslifecoaching@gmail.com, or you can call me at 360-840-0530. That's my cell phone, so I've got it on my hip all the time.
Perfect. And of course, you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or go online at themoneyhour.com, and we'll connect you with Valerie. Valerie, thank you so much for coming in and joining us in studio. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And coming up next to the Money Hour, how to recognize energy vampire situations. Dee Gupta of D Coaching, right here at 1150 AM, KKNW, after this short break.